Commander Jake Morrison stood in front of the large screen in the control room of the space station. His hands were steady, but his heart was beating fast. Today was the day humans would talk to the Zephyrian Empire for the first time. The Zephyrians ruled over many star systems and were known as the strongest hunters in the galaxy. The space station orbited around a planet called Kepler 442b. It was far from Earth, in a place where no human had ever been before. Jake had been chosen to lead this mission because he was calm under pressure and good at talking to people. But these were not people. These were aliens who might see humans as food. Dr. Lisa Carter checked her equipment one more time. She was the team's expert on alien life forms. She had studied every piece of information they had about the Zephyrians. They were big, covered in hard scales, and had sharp teeth and claws. They were built for killing. Everything about them, said Predator. "The signal is coming through now," said the communications officer. His name was Ben Parker, and he looked nervous. This was his first time being part of such an important mission. The screen flickered and then showed the inside of a Zephyrian ship. 3 large figures stood in front of the camera. They were even bigger than the reports had said. The largest one was at least 9 feet tall. His scales were dark green and seemed to shine under the lights. His teeth were visible even when his mouth was closed. His claws looked like they could cut through metal. "I am Commander Jake Morrison of the human fleet," Jake said into the microphone. "We come in peace to establish friendly relations with the Zephyrian Empire." The largest Zephyrian stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "I am War Leader Zethkar of the Zephyrian Third Fleet. We have heard of your species. You are small and weak. Your bodies have no natural weapons. Why should we not simply take your worlds?" Jake felt sweat on his forehead, but he kept his voice steady. "Because we have something to offer. Our technology, our knowledge, our friendship." Zethkar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Friendship? You speak of friendship with beings who could tear you apart with our bare claws?" Lisa stepped closer to the camera. She wanted to study the aliens' reactions. "We understand that you are powerful hunters," she said. "But strength comes in many forms." As she spoke, something strange happened. All 3 Zephyrians suddenly became very still. They were looking directly at the camera, but more specifically, they seemed to be looking at the humans' faces. Zethkar's large yellow eyes focused on Jake's eyes. The war leader's head tilted slightly, like a dog hearing a strange sound. The silence stretched on for almost a full minute. The other 2 Zephyrians had stopped moving completely. They just stared at the screen with an expression that Lisa had never seen before. It was not hunger or anger. It was something else. Something like confusion or even concern. Finally, Zethkar blinked and shook his head. "This meeting is over. We will consider your words." The screen went black before Jake could respond. Ben Parker turned around in his chair. "What just happened? Why did they end the call so suddenly?" Lisa was writing notes quickly on her tablet. "Did you see how they reacted when I stepped into view? And the way they looked at us?" "They looked at us like they wanted to eat us," Ben said. "No," Lisa said slowly. "That's what I expected them to do. But that's not what happened at all." Jake walked over to where Lisa was working. "What do you mean?" Lisa pulled up the recording of the meeting and played it back in slow motion. "Watch their eyes. Right here, when we first appear on their screen." On the replay, they could see the exact moment when the Zephyrians' behavior changed. It happened the instant they could see human faces clearly. Zethkar's pupils had expanded, and his breathing had become faster. But it was not the reaction of a predator seeing prey. It was something else entirely. They looked surprised, Jake said. Or maybe confused. More than that, Lisa said. Look at their body language. Zethkar actually took a step back. Did you see that? A 9-foot-tall alien warrior took a step back when he saw our faces. Ben replayed the video again. You're right. And look at the other two. They stopped moving completely, like they were frozen. Lisa continued making notes. This is not normal predator behavior. When a true predator sees potential prey, they become more aggressive, not less. They focus and prepare to attack. These aliens did the opposite. Jake sat down in his command chair. So what does it mean? I don't know yet, Lisa admitted. But I think we need to find out. There's something about human faces, or maybe human eyes specifically, that affects them in a way they don't understand. Over the next few hours, Lisa reviewed every piece of information they had about the Zephyrians. She studied their hunting practices, their social structure, their history of dealing with other species. Everything pointed to them being efficient. Ruthless predators who dominated through strength and fear. But their reaction to humans was completely different from how they behaved with other species. When the Zephyrians had first contacted the rabbit-like Valonians, they had immediately demanded surrender. When they met the peaceful plant-based Thornlings, they had simply announced that Thornling worlds now belonged to the Empire. With humans, they had asked for time to think. I want to run a test, Lisa told Jake as they prepared for sleep cycle. When they contact us again, I want to try something. What kind of test? I want to see what happens when more humans are visible in the camera feed, and I want to watch their reactions very carefully. Jake nodded. Approved, but be careful. We don't know what we're dealing with here. As Jake lay down to sleep, he thought about the look in Zethkar's eyes. The alien had seemed almost disturbed by something he had seen. But what could 3 small humans have shown him that would worry a creature built for war? Lisa stayed awake longer, reviewing the footage, again and again. She had spent her whole career studying alien life forms, but she had never seen anything like this. The Zephyrians were clearly advanced predators, but something about humans had made them hesitate. She made a note in her research log. Question: what do the Zephyrians see when they look at human faces? And why does it make them step back instead of step forward? Tomorrow, she would try to find the answer. But tonight, she had the strange feeling that this discovery might change everything humans thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. Captain Ryan Hayes woke up in a cage made of some kind of crystal material. His head hurt and his uniform was torn, but he was alive. The last thing he remembered was his scout ship being pulled into a Zephyrian vessel by some kind of energy beam. Now he was somewhere completely different. The cage was in the middle of what looked like an arena. The walls were made of the same crystal material, but they were much taller than any building Ryan had ever seen. Strange lights moved across, the walls in patterns that hurt to look at. The floor beneath his cage was covered in sand that sparkled like it had tiny pieces of metal mixed in. Around the arena, thousands of creatures were sitting in seats that rose up like a mountain. Most of them looked like different types of predators. Some had fur, some had scales, some had skin that looked like leather. All of them had sharp teeth and claws. All of them were watching Ryan. A voice spoke from somewhere above him. It was loud enough that every creature in the arena could hear it. Today we present a new type of prey, a human from the small worlds beyond the rim. This creature claims to be intelligent, but it has no claws, no teeth, no natural weapons. It will face Korthak the Unstoppable, winner of 300 arena battles. The crowd made sounds that Ryan guessed were cheering. Some roared, some hissed, some made clicking noises with their teeth. None of the sounds were friendly. A large door opened on the far side of the arena. The creature that walked out was the biggest thing Ryan had ever seen that could still move fast. Korthak looked like a cross between a giant lizard and a tiger. He was 12 feet tall and covered in dark red scales. His arms were longer than Ryan's whole body, and each hand ended in claws that looked like swords, but the worst part was Korthak's face. His yellow eyes were intelligent. This was not just a big animal. This was a thinking creature that enjoyed hunting and killing. The crystal bars of Ryan's cage melted away like ice in hot water. He was now standing alone in the arena with nothing between him and Korthak except 50 feet of sparkly sand. Ryan did not run. He did not scream. He had been a soldier for 15 years and had faced death many times before. Instead, he stood up straight and looked directly at Korthak. He studied the alien the way he would study any enemy. Korthak began moving toward Ryan. The alien's movements were smooth and confident. He had done this many times before. His claws made scratching sounds on the sand as he walked. But then, something unexpected happened. When Korthak was about 20 feet away, Ryan took a step forward instead of backward. He kept looking directly into Korthak's yellow eyes. He did not blink. He did not look away. He just stared at the giant predator with the calm focus of someone who was thinking about how to win. Korthak slowed down. Then he stopped completely. The arena became very quiet. The thousands of creatures in the seats stopped making noise. Even the strange lights on the walls seemed to dim. Korthak's head tilted to one side. His eyes were still locked on Ryan's eyes. Something in the human's stare was different from what Korthak had expected. This small creature was not showing fear. It was not trying to run or hide. Instead, it was looking at Korthak the way another predator would look at him. Ryan could see confusion in the alien's face. Korthak had hunted thousands of creatures, but none of them had ever looked at him this way. Prey animals showed fear. Other predators showed anger or challenge. But this human showed something else. It showed the cold, calculating look of something that was deciding how to kill. Ryan took another step forward. His hands were empty, but he held them in a way that suggested he was ready to fight. His body was relaxed but alert. Everything about his posture said that he was not prey. He was a hunter. Korthak actually took a step backward. The crowd started making different sounds now. Some were confused clicking noises. Others sounded like questions being asked in languages Ryan could not understand. Nobody had ever seen anything like this before. Ryan spoke in a calm, steady voice. "I am Captain Ryan Hayes of the human military. I have fought in 12 wars and killed more enemies than you have fingers. I may die here today, but I will not run from you." Korthak understood the tone, if not the words. This was not the voice of prey. This was the voice of another apex predator announcing its presence. The giant alien's breathing became faster. His claws flexed nervously. For the first time in his long career as an arena champion, Korthak was not sure what to do. Every instinct told him that the small creature in front of him was dangerous in a way he did not understand. Ryan began walking slowly in a circle, keeping his eyes on Korthak the whole time. He moved like someone who was looking for the best angle of attack. His steps were quiet and controlled. He was not trying to escape. He was positioning himself for a fight. This was too much for Korthak. The alien champion turned and walked quickly toward the door he had entered from. He did not run, because that would have shown weakness to the crowd, but he moved as fast as he could without running. The arena erupted in chaos. Creatures were standing up and making loud noises. Some sounded angry, others sounded confused. A few sounded frightened. Ryan remained standing in the center of the arena. He had not moved to attack Korthak, but he had not backed down either. He just stood there, ready to fight whatever came next. A different voice spoke from above. This one sounded older and more important than the first voice. "Remove the human from the arena. The contest is postponed until further evaluation." Several smaller aliens came out and surrounded Ryan. They carried energy weapons and moved carefully, like they were not sure if Ryan was going to attack them. Ryan allowed them to escort him to a different cage, this one much more comfortable than the first. As they led him away, Ryan could hear the crowd still making noise. Many of the creatures were arguing with each other in their various languages. Some were pointing at where Ryan had been standing. Others were looking toward the door where Korthak had disappeared. In his new cage, Ryan sat down on what seemed to be a bed. He was not sure what had just happened, but he knew it was important. Korthak was obviously a skilled fighter and an experienced killer. But when faced with a human who refused to act like prey, the alien had backed down. Ryan thought about the look in Korthak's eyes. It had not been the look of a predator seeing easy prey. It had been the look of a predator recognizing another predator and deciding that the fight might not be worth the risk. For the first time since his capture, Ryan smiled. Maybe humans were not as helpless in this galaxy as everyone thought. Outside his cage, he could hear aliens talking in excited voices. Word was spreading quickly through the facility that something unprecedented had happened in the arena. The undefeated champion had walked away from a fight with a creature that had no natural weapons. Ryan lay down and closed his eyes. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, he had learned something important. When humans looked at alien, predators with the eyes of hunters rather than the eyes of prey, even the most dangerous aliens seemed to hesitate. Dr. Amanda Foster sat in her small office on the colony ship New Horizon. The ship was traveling toward Proxima Centauri, carrying 10,000 humans to start a new life on another world. Amanda's job was to study the mental health of the crew, members to make sure everyone stayed sane during the long journey. But today she had found something that had nothing to do with mental health. She had been looking through the ship's computer files when she accidentally opened a folder marked Military Classification Level 7. She knew she was not supposed to see these files, but curiosity got the better of her. The first file was called Human Combat Psychology, Historical Analysis. Amanda opened it and began reading. What she found made her forget about everything else. The file contained research about human behavior during fights and wars. But it also contained information about human evolution that was very different from what Amanda had learned in school. According to these files, humans had not evolved from prey animals that learned to use tools. They had evolved from hunters. Amanda read more carefully. The research showed that early humans had been persistence hunters. This meant they had chased their prey for hours or even days until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. No other species on Earth had hunted this way. It required intelligence, teamwork, and the ability to never give up. The files contained brain scans showing that modern humans still had the same neural pathways as these ancient hunters. When humans faced real danger, These old hunting instincts would wake up. Their heart rate would slow down instead of speed up. Their vision would become sharper. Their ability to work together as a team would increase dramatically. But the most interesting part was about human eyes. According to the research, human eyes were positioned on the front of their heads like all predator animals. Their eyes could focus on a single target with incredible precision. When humans stared at something, they sent out signals that other predators could recognize, even if they did not understand what those signals meant. Amanda opened another file. This one was called Predator Recognition Patterns Across Species. It explained that all predator animals had evolved ways to recognize other predators. This helped them avoid unnecessary fights with creatures that might be able to kill them. The file suggested that humans still carried the neural patterns of their hunting ancestors. When a human looked directly at another predator with full focus, something in their brain chemistry changed. They began sending out the same signals that their ancestors had sent when they were tracking prey across the African plains. Amanda leaned back in her chair. This explained so much about human behavior that had never made sense before. Why did humans perform better under pressure when other animals panicked? Why were humans so good at working together in dangerous situations? Why did human soldiers seem to get calmer during battles instead of more frightened? She opened a third file. This one contained reports from military units that had faced alien predators in border conflicts. In every case, the aliens had shown unusual behavior when fighting humans. They would hesitate at strange moments. They would break off attacks that should have been successful. Sometimes they would retreat even when they had clear advantages. One report was especially detailed. It described a battle between human marines and a group of aliens called Thraxians. The Thraxians were built like enormous wolves and were known for their aggressive hunting tactics. But when the human marines had formed a defensive circle and stared at the approaching aliens, the entire Thraxian pack had stopped advancing. The human commander had described it this way: "It was like they suddenly realized we were not the easy prey they had expected. They kept looking at our faces, especially our eyes. After about 10 minutes of this standoff, they just left. They did not retreat fighting. They just turned around and walked away." Amanda found similar reports from dozens of other encounters. Aliens that should have easily defeated human forces had instead chosen to withdraw or negotiate. In many cases, the aliens had specifically mentioned being disturbed by the way humans looked at them. She opened her personal research files and began cross-referencing what she had learned. Everything pointed to the same conclusion. Humans were not the weak, prey-like species that everyone in the galaxy assumed they were. They were persistent predators whose hunting instincts had been dormant for thousands of years but were still present in their genetic code. Amanda thought about her own experiences. She remembered times when she had been in dangerous situations and had felt her mind become very calm and focused. She had always thought this was just her personality, but now she wondered if it was something deeper. She pulled up video recordings of crew members during emergency drills. When the ship's alarms went off and everyone had to respond quickly to simulated disasters, something interesting happened. The crew members did not panic or run around in confusion. Instead, they moved with smooth coordination. They made eye contact with each other to communicate without words. They organized themselves into efficient teams without anyone giving orders. Most importantly, they all developed the same expression on their faces. It was calm, alert, and completely focused. Amanda had seen that same expression in the military files when human soldiers were preparing for battle. She began looking up information about predator animals on Earth. Lions, tigers, wolves, sharks. They all had the same kind of forward-facing eyes as humans. They all used direct eye contact to communicate with other predators. They all became calmer and more focused when they were hunting. Amanda realized she was looking at evidence of humanity's true nature. Humans were not prey animals that had gotten lucky with technology. They were apex predators that had temporarily forgotten how to hunt. She thought about the recent reports from the border systems. Human diplomats were having surprising success in negotiations with alien predator species. Military commanders were reporting that alien enemies seemed less aggressive when facing human forces. Even civilian traders were finding that alien customers treated them with more respect than expected. Now Amanda understood why. When humans activated their dormant predator instincts, other species could sense it. The aliens might not understand what they were sensing, but their own predator instincts recognized the signals that humans were sending. Amanda began writing a new report. She titled it, "The Predator Within: Understanding Human Neural Heritage." She knew that this information would change everything about how humans saw themselves and how they interacted with other species in the galaxy. As she wrote, Amanda felt something changing in her own mind. She was beginning to understand that humans were not small, weak creatures trying to survive in a dangerous galaxy. They were hunters who had temporarily forgotten their true nature, and if the military files were correct, they were starting to remember. Station Commander Paul Grant looked at the scanner display and felt his stomach drop. 300 Rillan shock troopers were approaching the border station in heavy assault ships. Paul had only 12 humans under his command, and their station was not built for military combat. The Rillans were known throughout the galaxy as unstoppable warriors. They looked like enormous bears, but with advanced intelligence and energy weapons. Each Rillan stood 8 feet tall and weighed 600 pounds of solid muscle. Their thick fur could stop small projectiles, and their claws could tear through metal doors. Paul's team was made up of technicians, communications specialists, and maintenance workers. Lieutenant Karen Miller was his second in command, but she had never been in a real battle. Sergeant Tony Brooks had some military training, but nothing that would help against a force this size. "Sir, they're demanding our surrender," said Communications Officer Dave Walsh. "They say they're claiming this sector for the Rillan Empire," Paul thought quickly. The station was positioned at an important jump point between human and alien space. If the Rillans took control of it, they could cut off several human colonies from contact with Earth. But 12 humans could not possibly fight 300 alien warriors unless they did not fight like humans usually fought. "Karen, Tony, get everyone to the command center right now," Paul ordered. "Dave, tell the Rillans we need 30 minutes to discuss their terms." When his team was gathered, Paul looked at each person carefully. They were scared, but they were not panicking. That was good. "Listen carefully. We cannot fight them with weapons, but we can fight them with tactics." "Sir, there are 300 of them," said Engineer Lisa Park. "Even if we had military equipment, we would be outnumbered 25-1. "Exactly," Paul said. "They expect us to either surrender or make a desperate last stand. We're going to do something else. We're going to hunt them." Tony Brooks frowned. "Hunt them? Sir, they're the predators here, not us." Paul had been thinking about recent reports from other human outposts. There had been several encounters where small human forces had achieved impossible victories against larger alien armies. In each case, the humans had used coordination and pack tactics that confused their enemies. Here's what we're going to do, Paul explained. We're going to split into 4 teams of 3 people each. Each team will control different sections of the station. We'll use the maintenance tunnels to move between sections without being seen. Karen raised her hand. But sir, how does that help us? They'll still outnumber each team 100 to 1. Because we're not going to fight them directly, Paul said. We're going to make them think they're being hunted by something much larger than 12 people. Paul pulled up a map of the station on the main screen. The Relans will expect us to defend the command center. Instead, we're going to let them have it. While they're trying to figure out our computer systems, we'll be moving through the station like a pack of wolves. He pointed to different areas on the map. Team 1 will disable their landing ships so they can't escape or call for reinforcements. Team 2 will take control of the power grid and start turning lights on and off in different sections. Team 3 will use the communication system to make sounds throughout the station. Team 4 will move between sections and always stay just out of sight. Lisa Park was beginning to understand. You want to make them think we're everywhere at once? Exactly. Rillans are individual fighters. They're used to enemies that either run away or charge straight at them. They've never faced an enemy that coordinates like a pack of predators. Paul assigned the teams and went over the plan in detail. Each team would use hand signals and eye contact to communicate when they were close to each other. They would move silently and always stay in formation. Most importantly, when they encountered Rillans directly, they would not attack. They would just stare at them for a few seconds, then disappear into the maintenance tunnels. Remember, Paul said, we want them to see us just enough to know we're there, but not long enough to count how many we are. Make eye contact, stay calm, and move like you know exactly what you're doing. 30 minutes later, the Rillan ships docked with the station. The aliens came aboard expecting to find terrified humans hiding in closets. Instead, they found empty corridors and a command center with no one in it. Team 1, led by Tony Brooks, moved to the docking bay through the maintenance tunnels. They planted small explosive charges on the Rillan ship's communication arrays. As they worked, 3 Rillan soldiers entered the bay to check on their ships. Tony and his team stopped what they were doing and stood up slowly. They looked directly at the 3 aliens with calm, steady expressions. The Relans raised their weapons, but something about the humans' behavior made them hesitate. The humans were not running or hiding. They were just standing there, watching. The aliens with the focused attention of predators studying their prey. After 10 seconds, Tony's team melted back into the maintenance tunnels. The Rillans were left standing in the bay, confused about what had just happened. Similar encounters happened throughout the station. Team 2 would appear in a corridor, make eye contact with a group of Rillans, then vanish before the aliens could react. Team 3 would show up in different sections, always moving with the same calm coordination. Team 4 seemed to be everywhere at once, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. The Rillans began to get nervous. They were used to enemies that behaved predictably, but these humans moved like a coordinated pack of intelligent predators. They never attacked, but they were always watching, always present, always one step ahead. Karen Miller's team had taken control of the power grid. They began turning lights on and off in sequence, creating the impression that a large force was moving through the station in organized patterns. They also controlled the artificial gravity, making some sections weightless while keeping others at normal gravity. The Rillans started moving in larger groups. Instead of spreading out to search the station efficiently, they began clustering together for protection. This was exactly what Paul had hoped for. Dave Walsh used the communication system to broadcast sounds throughout the station. footsteps echoing from empty corridors, voices speaking quietly in sections where no humans were present. The sound of metal moving through the walls as if a large force was moving through the maintenance tunnels. After 2 hours, the Rillan commander tried to contact his ships for reinforcements. But Team 1 had disabled the communication arrays. The explosions were small, but they sent a clear message. The humans had anticipated this move and were prepared for it. Paul's team appeared in the command center where the Rillan commander was trying to understand the station's computer systems. The 4 humans walked in calmly, stood in a line facing the aliens, and just waited. The Rillan commander was 9 feet tall and armed with enough weapons to destroy a small building. But when he looked into the eyes of the 4 humans, he saw something that made him uncomfortable. They were not afraid. They were not angry. They were just watching him with the patient focus of hunters who knew they had already won. "What do you want?" the commander growled. Paul spoke in a calm voice. "We want you to leave our station. You have 1 hour to get your people back to your ships and depart. If you do not leave, we will assume you want to continue playing this game." "Game? This is war." "No," Paul said, still maintaining eye contact. "War is what happens when prey animals fight each other. This is hunting." The Rillan commander looked around at his soldiers. They were all looking nervously at the corridors and maintenance hatches. For the past 2 hours, they had felt like they were being stalked by an enemy they could not see or count. Every time they thought they had cornered the humans, their prey had vanished and appeared somewhere else. "How many of you are there?" the commander demanded. Paul smiled. "Enough." 50 minutes later, the Rillan ships undocked from the station and jumped to hyperspace. 300 heavily armed warriors had been outmaneuvered by 12 humans with no military weapons. Paul gathered his team in the command center. They were all exhausted, but they were also amazed by what they had accomplished. "How did we do that?" Lisa Park asked. Tony Brooks thought about it. "We stopped acting like prey and started acting like predators. And somehow they could tell the difference." Paul nodded. "Maybe there's more to being human than we thought." Dr. Nicole Turner brushed dirt away from the cave wall with a soft brush. She was working on an archaeological site in the Rift Valley of Africa, the place where human ancestors had first learned to walk upright. But what she was finding here was very different from what any textbook had taught her about human evolution. The cave paintings were at least 50,000 years old, maybe older. Most showed scenes of early humans hunting, but not the kind of hunting that Nicole had expected to find. These humans were not hiding behind rocks throwing spears at small animals. They were chasing enormous creatures across vast distances. One painting showed a group of humans following a giant mammoth, but they were not attacking it. They were just running behind it, staying far enough away to avoid its tusks, but close enough to keep it moving. The painting continued along the wall, showing the same scene repeated many times. The mammoth grew more tired in each panel, while the humans looked exactly the same. "Steve, come look at this," Nicole called to her research partner, Dr. Steve Collins. He was working on the other side of the cave, analyzing bones that had been found buried in the floor. Steve walked over and looked at the paintings. "Persistence hunting," he said immediately. "They're showing marathon hunts that could last for days." "But look at this." Nicole pointed to a detail in one of the paintings. "See how the humans are positioned? They're not just chasing randomly. They're working as a coordinated group. Some are forcing the mammoth to turn, others are cutting off escape routes, and these ones here are staying fresh by taking turns running." Steve studied the paintings more carefully. This level of coordination would require advanced communication and planning. These weren't primitive scavengers. These were sophisticated pack hunters. Nicole moved to another section of the wall. And look at these paintings over here. They show humans hunting things that could easily kill them if they fought directly. The second group of paintings showed humans pursuing creatures that looked like giant lions and enormous bears. In every case, the humans were not trying to overpower their prey. They were wearing them down through relentless pursuit. No other species on Earth hunted this way, Steve said. This would require intelligence, endurance, and social cooperation that no other predator possessed. Nicole had been working on this site for 6 months, and every discovery had been challenging what scientists thought they knew about early humans. The bones Steve was analyzing showed that these ancient people had been much stronger and faster than modern humans. Their brain capacity had been larger too. "Steve, look at this skull fragment you found yesterday," Nicole said, holding up a piece of ancient bone. "The eye socket placement is interesting." Steve examined the skull with a magnifying glass. The eyes are positioned completely forward-facing, just like modern humans, but the socket size suggests much better vision than contemporary humans have. Forward-facing eyes are a predator trait, Nicole noted. Prey animals have eyes on the sides of their heads so they can watch for danger from all directions. Predators have eyes on the front so they can focus on their target. They spent the next several hours documenting the paintings and bone fragments. Each piece of evidence pointed to the same conclusion. Early humans had been apex predators, not the weak scavengers that most textbooks described. Nicole's satellite phone rang. It was Dr. Amanda Foster calling from the colony ship New Horizon. Amanda had been following Nicole's research and had some information to share. "Nicole, I've been looking at the military files about human neural patterns," Amanda said over the static-filled connection. "What you're finding in those caves matches perfectly with what I'm seeing in modern human brain scans." "What do you mean?" Nicole asked. "The same neural pathways that made your ancient hunter successful are still active in modern humans. When people face real danger, their brains activate hunting patterns that are 50,000 years old." Nicole looked at the cave paintings with new understanding. "So modern humans still have the same predator instincts as our ancestors?" "Exactly. And those instincts include neural patterns that other predator species can recognize, even if they don't understand what they're recognizing." After the call ended, Nicole and Steve continued their analysis. They found more paintings showing early humans using advanced tactics that would not be out of place in a modern military manual. Ambush techniques, coordinated group movements, and strategic planning that required high intelligence. "Look at this sequence," Steve said, pointing to a series of paintings near the back of the cave. "They show humans hunting something that looks like a giant predator cat, but the humans aren't running away from it. They're hunting it." The paintings showed a group of humans surrounding a massive saber-toothed cat. But instead of attacking it directly, they were using psychological tactics. They maintained eye contact with the predator while slowly closing in from all sides. The final painting showed the cat backing away from the humans, even though it could have easily killed any one of them in a direct fight. They were out predating the predators, Nicole realized. They used intelligence and coordination to convince other apex predators that humans were too dangerous to fight. Steve found more evidence in the bone analysis. These bone fragments show that early humans had much more muscle density than modern people. Their jaws were stronger too. But the most interesting thing is the chemical residue on their bones. "What kind of chemical residue?" adrenaline compounds that are only produced during extended periods of focused hunting. These people were spending days at a time in active pursuit of prey. Their bodies were adapted for marathon hunting sessions. Nicole made careful notes about everything they were discovering. She realized that this information would completely change how humans understood their own evolution and their place in the galactic community. Steve, we need to analyze the neural structure of these skulls. I want to compare the brain patterns of early humans with the reports Amanda is getting from modern humans under stress. They spent the next week using portable scanning equipment to analyze the ancient skulls. The results were remarkable. The brain structure of early humans showed enormous development in the areas responsible for spatial reasoning, long-term planning, and social coordination. These were the same areas that lit up in modern humans during crisis situations. But the most significant discovery was in the visual cortex. Early humans had brain structures that allowed for incredibly focused visual attention. They could lock onto a target and track it for hours without losing concentration. This explains so much, Nicole said as she reviewed the data. Modern humans still have these neural pathways. When they activate, humans become persistence hunters again. Other predator species can sense this change even if they don't understand what they're sensing. Steve pulled up reports from recent human-alien encounters. Look at this pattern. In every case where humans faced alien predators, the humans instinctively activated these ancient hunting behaviors. They made direct eye contact, moved with coordinated precision, and showed the patience of persistence hunters. And in every case, the aliens backed down or showed respect, Nicole added. They were recognizing something familiar. They were seeing the neural patterns of apex predators. Nicole wrote a detailed report about their discoveries. She titled it, "The Persistence Predator: Evidence for Human Apex Evolution." The report would be transmitted to human colonies throughout the galaxy. As Nicole packed up their equipment, she looked one more time at the cave paintings. 50,000 years ago, humans had been master hunters who could pursue any prey across any distance. They had used intelligence and coordination to become apex predators on a world full of dangerous creatures. Now, their descendants were discovering that those same hunting instincts were still present, waiting to be activated when humans faced real challenges. "Steve," Nicole said as they prepared to leave the cave, "I think we just figured out why alien predators keep hesitating when they look into human eyes." "Why?" "Because they're looking into the eyes of hunters, and somewhere deep in their own predator instincts, they remember what it means when another apex predator decides to focus on them." General Peter Hayes stood on the observation deck of the military training station in the Vega system. Below him, the largest mixed-species military exercise in galactic history was about to begin. Human soldiers would be working alongside alien warriors from 12 different predator species for the first time. The exercise was supposed to test how different species could coordinate in battle. But Peter suspected it would test something much more fundamental about the nature of predators and pack behavior. Major Linda Price approached with the morning briefing. "Sir, we have some interesting developments. The alien commanders are requesting changes to the planned unit structures." "What kind of changes?" Linda checked her tablet. "They want human soldiers included in every mixed unit. Apparently, their troops perform better when humans are present, even though humans are physically the weakest species in the exercise." Peter was not entirely surprised. Reports from border conflicts had been suggesting for months that alien predators responded to human presence in unexpected ways. "What do the alien commanders say when you ask them why?" "That's the interesting part, sir. They can't explain it. They just say their soldiers seem more focused and coordinated when humans are part of the team. The exercise began with small unit tactics. Teams of 6 soldiers from different species were given objectives to complete in a simulated combat environment. Peter watched the first few teams through the observation cameras. Team Alpha consisted of 2 Zephyrians, 2 Saurians, and 2 humans. The humans were Sergeant Rick Davis and Corporal Amy Chen. Both were experienced soldiers, but they were dwarfed by their alien teammates. As soon as the exercise began, something interesting happened. The 2 humans instinctively moved to positions where they could see the entire battlefield. They did not take command or give orders, but they began using eye contact and hand signals to coordinate the team's movements. The alien soldiers responded immediately. The massive Zephyrians began moving with a precision they had never shown in previous exercises. The Saurians, who were usually aggressive individual fighters, started working together like parts of a coordinated pack. "Are you seeing this?" Linda asked Peter as they watched the team perform flawlessly. Team Alpha completed their objective in half the time it should have taken. More importantly, they moved with a level of coordination that training manuals said was impossible with mixed species. Team Bravo had similar results. The humans in that team, Sergeant Mike Torres and Private Kelly White, seemed to activate something in their alien teammates that made the entire unit function better. Peter called down to the exercise commander. "Colonel Rodriguez, I want you to run the same scenario with alien-only teams. No humans." The alien-only teams performed exactly as expected. They were individually skilled and dangerous, but they lacked the smooth coordination that the mixed teams had shown. Each alien fought well, but they did not fight together. "Run it again with human-only teams," Peter ordered. The human teams also performed well, but differently. They showed excellent coordination and tactical thinking, but they lacked the raw physical power of the alien teams. "Now run it with mixed teams again, but this time I want the humans to lead." This was where things became really interesting. When humans were placed in official command positions, the results were extraordinary. Alien soldiers who had never taken orders from another species began following human commands without question. Peter watched as Lieutenant Sarah Bell led a team of Reelan warriors through a complex urban combat scenario. The Reelans were 8-foot-tall bear-like creatures who were used to charging straight at their enemies. But under Sarah's command, they began using sophisticated tactics that played to their strengths while compensating for their weaknesses. "How is she doing that?" Linda asked. "The Reelans have never shown that level of tactical flexibility before." Peter studied Sarah's behavior through the cameras. She was not shouting orders or trying to intimidate the aliens. Instead, she was using direct eye contact and calm, confident body language. When she looked at each Reelan, they immediately focused on her and waited for direction. "She's activating their pack instincts," Peter realized. The Reelans recognize her as an alpha predator and are responding accordingly. The pattern repeated with every mixed team that had human leadership. Alien soldiers who were normally independent and aggressive began working together like members of a coordinated pack. Their individual skills improved, and their teamwork became nearly perfect. But the most remarkable development came during the large-scale battle simulation. 300 soldiers from different species were divided into 2 armies. One army was commanded by alien generals using traditional hierarchical command structures. The other army was commanded by human officers using small unit tactics. The human-commanded army won decisively, even though they had the same mix of species and equipment as their opponents. Peter studied the battle recordings with his staff. "Look at this communication pattern," he said, pointing to data from the human-commanded units. "The humans are using eye contact and subtle body language to coordinate their alien troops. And look at the stress indicators from the alien soldiers. The data showed that aliens fighting under human command had lower stress levels and higher performance ratings than aliens fighting under alien command." Colonel Rodriguez joined the briefing. "Sir, I've been talking to the alien commanders. They're requesting permission to study human command techniques. They want to understand how our officers are achieving this level of coordination." "What did you tell them?" "That we're not entirely sure ourselves, but I think we're seeing something that goes deeper than training or tactics." Peter pulled up reports from Dr. Nicole Turner's archaeological discoveries and Dr. Amanda Foster's neural research. "I think we're seeing the activation of ancient predator hierarchies. When humans act like apex predators, other predator species instinctively recognize the behavior and respond to it." Linda looked at the exercise data. "So you're saying that humans naturally function as pack leaders for multi-species predator groups?" "That's exactly what I'm saying, and the aliens can sense it, even if they don't understand it intellectually." Peter ordered additional exercises to test his theory. Human soldiers were placed in leadership positions with different combinations of alien species. In every case, the results were the same. The aliens performed better under human command than under their own species' leadership. But the most significant test came when Peter himself entered the simulation. He led a mixed team of 30 soldiers from 6 different species through a complex mission scenario. As soon as Peter took command, something changed in the alien soldiers. They did not just follow his orders, they anticipated them. They moved, with a coordination that their own commanders had never achieved. Most importantly, they looked to Peter for direction with the same respect they would show to an alpha of their own species. "General," said Krex, a Zephyrian team leader, after the exercise was complete, "I do not understand what you humans do to us, but when you lead, we fight better than we have ever fought before." Peter met Krex's gaze directly. "We don't do anything to you, Krex. We just remind you of what it means to be part of a pack." After the exercises ended, Peter received reports from observers representing dozens of alien species. All of them had reached the same conclusion. Human soldiers possessed natural leadership abilities that worked across species lines. The Rillan observer wrote, "Human military commanders activate coordination instincts in our warriors that we did not know existed. Under human leadership, our soldiers fight with pack efficiency that surpasses our best traditional tactics." The Saurian observer reported, "Human officers communicate through eye contact and body language in ways that our troops instinctively understand. We recommend immediate integration of human command staff into Saurian military units." Peter compiled all the reports into a comprehensive analysis. The conclusion was clear. Humans were natural pack leaders for multi-species predator groups. Their persistence hunting heritage had given them neural patterns that other predator species recognized and responded to instinctively. "Linda," Peter said as they prepared to leave the station, "I want you to draft a new protocol for mixed-species military cooperation. From now on, all joint operations should include human command staff." "Yes, sir. But can I ask you something?" "What is it?" "Why do you think evolution gave humans this ability? What advantage would it have provided on Earth?" Peter thought about the cave paintings Nicole Turner had discovered, showing early humans coordinating hunts with other predator species. "Maybe because our ancestors learned to hunt alongside wolves and other Earth predators." Maybe we've always been pack leaders for multi-species groups. As their ship departed the Vega system, Peter looked back at the training station. For the first time in galactic history, predator species from dozens of worlds had worked together as a coordinated force, and they had done it by following human leadership. The implications were staggering. If humans could activate pack loyalty in alien predators, it meant that humanity's role in the galaxy might be very different from what anyone had imagined. Ambassador Claire Roberts stood before the assembled Galactic Council 6 months after her first visit to the Great Council chamber. But everything had changed since then. The chamber now included human representatives from every major colony, and the alien delegates no longer looked at humans with confusion or contempt. The hunt that Claire had volunteered for had taken place 3 months ago. She had been placed in a controlled environment with Korthak the Unstoppable, the same Zephyrian champion who had backed away from Captain Ryan Hayes in the arena. The test was supposed to prove that humans were not true predators. Instead, it had proven the opposite. Claire had not fought Korthak directly. She had done something that no alien predator had ever attempted. She had outweighted him. For 6 hours, she had moved through the testing environment like a persistence hunter, always staying just out of reach, always keeping Korthak moving, never letting him rest. By the end of the test, the 12-foot alien warrior had been exhausted while Claire was still alert and focused. More importantly, Korthak had gained a new understanding of what humans really were. Now, Council Speaker Kronak rose to address the assembly. The massive Zephyrian's voice carried respect that had never been present before. Fellow delegates, we gather today to formally acknowledge what our interactions with humans have taught us. We have learned that strength takes many forms, and that the hunt is sacred regardless of the shape of the hunter. Around the chamber, delegates from 23 predator species nodded in agreement. The Saurian representative, war leader Thex, stood to speak. 6 months ago, I believed humans were prey animals with clever technology. My warriors have now trained alongside human soldiers. I have seen human commanders lead my people to victories we could never have achieved alone. I no longer question whether humans are predators. I question why it took us so long to recognize them as such. The Rillan delegate spoke next. My species attempted to claim a human station through force. 12 humans convinced 300 of our warriors to withdraw without a shot being fired. They did this through coordination and patience that exceeded our own tactical abilities. One by one, representatives from different species shared similar stories. In every case, contact with humans had changed their understanding of what it meant to be a predator. Jake Morrison, who had been promoted to Chief Human Liaison, stood to address the council. Honored delegates, we have all learned something important about the nature of predators. We have learned that the hunt transcends physical form. He gestured to the mixed human-alien security teams that now guarded the station. Look around. This chamber. Humans and aliens working together with coordination that none of us thought possible. This is not because humans are superior to other species. It is because we recognize each other as fellow hunters. The most significant moment came when Zethkar, the war leader who had first met humans, approached the podium. 6 months ago, he had been confused and disturbed by human behavior. Now he carried himself with the respect one apex predator shows to another. When we first encountered humans, Zethkar said, we looked into their eyes and saw something that disturbed us. We could not understand what we were seeing, so we assumed it was weakness or deception. He turned to face Claire and Jake directly. We were wrong. What we saw in human eyes was the reflection of ourselves. We saw the gaze of the hunter, the patience of the stalker, the intelligence of the pack coordinator. We saw apex predators who had temporarily forgotten their true nature. Zethkars. Words created a moment of profound silence in the chamber. These were apex predators from dozens of worlds, each accustomed to being the most dangerous creature in their environment. But they were acknowledging humans as equals. Dr. Ben Parker, who had accompanied Claire to every meeting, stood to present the scientific evidence that supported what everyone had experienced. We now understand that humans evolved as persistence hunters, Ben explained. This evolutionary path gave us neural patterns that other predator species recognize instinctively. When humans activate these ancient hunting behaviors, we send signals that bypass conscious thought and communicate directly with the predator instincts of other species. He displayed brain scans showing human neural activity during stress situations. These patterns are 50,000 years old, but they remain active in modern humans. When we face real challenges, we unconsciously activate the same neural pathways that made our ancestors successful pack hunters. The alien delegates studied the data with intense interest. For the first time, they had a scientific explanation for what they had all experienced emotionally. Claire stood to make the final presentation. Today, we propose the formation of the Galactic Predator Alliance. This alliance would be based on mutual recognition and respect between apex predator species, regardless of their evolutionary origin. She looked around the chamber, making eye contact with each delegate as she had done 6 months ago, but this time, none of them looked away. We propose military cooperation based on mixed-species pack tactics. We propose scientific collaboration to understand predator evolution across different worlds. Most importantly, we propose friendship, based on the recognition that the hunt is sacred, no matter what form it takes. The vote was unanimous. Every species in the chamber agreed to join the Galactic Predator Alliance. For the first time in galactic history, apex predators from dozens of worlds would work together as a coordinated pack. As the formal ceremonies concluded, individual delegates approached human representatives to discuss specific cooperation agreements. The conversations were very different from the diplomatic negotiations of 6 months ago. These were predators talking to other predators about how to hunt together. Korthak, the arena champion who had faced both Ryan Hayes and Claire Roberts, approached Jake Morrison. "Human leader," Korthak said, "I must tell you something. When I first saw your Captain Hayes in the arena, I felt something I had never experienced before. Fear, but not fear of death. Fear of recognition." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. I looked into his eyes and saw myself reflected back. I saw the patience of the hunter, the focus of the stalker. For the first time in my life, I was facing another apex predator, and I realized that the outcome of our hunt was not certain. Korthak's massive claws gestured toward the mixed groups of humans and aliens working together throughout the chamber. Now I understand. Humans are not prey pretending to be predators. You are predators who forgot how to hunt, but you are remembering. As the day ended, Claire stood on the observation deck of the station, looking out at the ships of the new alliance. Human vessels were docked alongside alien warships, their crews working together with an efficiency that had amazed everyone. Jake joined her at the observation window. "Claire, when you first volunteered to face Korthak in that hunting test, did you know this would be the result?" Claire smiled. "I knew that something would change. I could see it in their eyes when they looked at us. They were seeing something familiar, something that reminded them of themselves. And now? Now they know what they were seeing. They were seeing the eyes of hunters, the same eyes that their own ancestors had when they first learned to track prey across their home worlds. Below them, a mixed human-alien patrol was preparing to depart for the border systems. The team moved with perfect coordination, communicating through eye contact and subtle body language that transcended species barriers. "Jake," Claire said, "I think we just changed the balance of power in the galaxy, not through conquest or intimidation, but through recognition." Recognition of what? Recognition that apex predators, no matter what world they come from, share something fundamental. The hunt may be sacred, but the pack is eternal. As night cycle began on the station, Claire reflected on how much had changed since humans had first ventured into galactic space. They had arrived thinking they were weak creatures in a dangerous universe. They were leaving as recognized apex predators with allies throughout the galaxy. The transformation had not come through advanced technology or superior firepower. It had come through the simple act of looking other predators in the eye and allowing them to see what humans really were. In the end, it had not been about proving human strength. It had been about remembering human nature. And once that nature was revealed, every apex predator in the galaxy had recognized it immediately. The hunt was sacred. The pack was eternal, and humans had finally found their place in both.